Okay, we're here. We're here, ready to go, more or less. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Here we are. Another Wednesday evening. And today, well, a little bit later on, we are going to be having a chat about Blue-Eyed Samurai, the Netflix original animated series, limited series. I actually haven't finished it yet. And regardless, I don't think we should aim to talk about a bunch of spoilers when we do get around to talking about the show. Just in case, I would prefer not to push people away who haven't watched it yet, because that was me, a week ago. I just had never checked it out. But yeah, I definitely feel that I've watched enough of it now that we can discuss it a little bit. And I guess I'll say right off the bat that my opinion on it has changed slightly. It's changed slightly overall, like the needle has moved a little bit. But on top of that, I just think there's a lot of stuff that can be talked about. Like if I was going to make, a whole video about the show, I think there are a lot of different angles available. There are a lot of different ways that you could approach talking about the show. And it's, theoretical impact in different areas. So there is a lot. There is a lot, and there is a lot more than I expected to get from it. But anyway, a little bit later on, we'll get to that. Talk about the show. And then we'll see if folks are active and they have some suggestions for something that we could sample for next week's stream. I am totally open to that. It's not a requirement. No. If we don't want to do that for next week, we don't have to. But I kind of like it. I kind of like the book club vibe of checking out a particular show or movie for each stream. But that is not all. As always, we'll just be running through some other headlines and topics here, especially at the start. And then, also just throughout, at any time, feel free to make any other recommendations or chat about other topics. Really at random, it's a-okay by me. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. We will ease into the stream for a little bit here. I definitely need to adjust the streaming mode. Just the regular Home Alone vibe is not... You can't just carry that through into streaming, I don't think. It's a switch of getting ready to present yourself. And also the head trip, I think, of the fact that, especially here on YouTube, all this stuff is recorded, which I kind of hate, to be honest. I'm glad people can watch the archives of the streams, but the idea that these streams are up for basically forever unless I do something about it, I don't like that idea so much. I don't think they're worth that. I don't think they continue to have that much value after the fact. So that's part of getting ready for streams. Just okay, and just remember, it's just gonna be there. It's just going to continue to be there. I also did an insane thing at some point. Well, on a number of occasions, but about, I don't know, it was almost a year ago that I was doing a bunch of job hunting, right? And so, updating the resume and all that kind of stuff, and glad it worked out. I got some jobs from that eventually. But at one point, I don't know, I guess I just didn't have as much experience in my current field as I wanted to. So it's just a classic situation of trying to, not making stuff up for the resume at all, but just what can I add here? What have I actually worked on? Even if it was I don't know, hobby stuff, or every once in a while I'll contribute to some kind of project. That's not paid. It's not a fan project, but I don't know. I helped out with localization for this one video game's website just I just offered. I was like, hey, the website doesn't read well in English. So I was like, sure, add that to the resume. You know, this is other work that I've done. It's relevant to the work that I want to be doing. So long story short, at some point, I had the brilliant idea um, to mention this channel on my resume. Or maybe it was just the website. I don't know. I used to maintain a website sort of connected to the channel as well. Um, it's another long story. But anyway, I mentioned some iteration of GL on the resume. And for one thing, across however many interviews I had, just, you know, around that time when I was applying, I don't think anyone ever mentioned it or asked about it in any form, which is a good, I mean, in hindsight especially, it's a very good thing, because I don't know what I would have, you know. They'd be like, so is this a job? Like, do you make money off it? Like, well, no. Is it just, you just think it's really good work and we should check it out? Well, probably not. There's some good stuff. So, anyway, so that continues to haunt me, just the fact that, like, you know, there's that stock line you get from different companies and stuff when you do submit resumes and you get rejected. They're like, oh, we'll keep it on file, right? We'll keep it on file, and in the future, maybe we'll let you know. And they never do, but the idea that a bunch of people around, I don't know, the US, I guess, different companies or HR people have some saved digital copy of my resume with that kind of stuff on it kind of chills me to my bones a little bit. And even my current jobs, like, I'm pretty sure those versions of the resume at least mentions some of that stuff. And, you know, part of it is the self-consciousness of people looking at anything you've made, especially people you sort of know in real life. That's a, it's a, what do we say? It's a higher hurdle. Is that a phrase? It's more of a challenge, I think. The idea of people who I know in real life, you know, checking out my stuff, as opposed to people on the internet who I haven't met before, you know? Anyway. So, that's one reason why I kind of shiver to think that other people have this information about me. But on top of that, I just think that, given that the channel is a hobby thing and always has been, it almost just feels like something you would rather not mention to work people. Does that make sense? Like, I have plenty of hobbies. They're not all things that I would try to promote. They're not all things that I would try to really bring up in a work setting. It just, I don't know. Yeah, it almost feels too private in a way, despite the fact that this is, you know, publicly available. Anyway, there we have it. Was that a good opening story? What else was I thinking about today? Oh, here's my next great bit that I'll put into a tight 5 at some point. So I got an amber. I wish I had better visuals. I'll try to think of something to pull up here. Maybe some blue-eyed samurai imagery. Got an Amber Alert yesterday. Actually, 2 Amber Alerts within like 3 hours. And just to set up, I was very tired yesterday, very wiped out. You know, I'd finished my work. I was probably on a caffeine crash and everything, and I was just being very lazy and trying to relax. And then the Amber Alert thing goes off, and the chime is very loud, right? And already not in a great mood. Then I go over to the phone, just, oh, what is this? Because it's not always the Amber Alert. Sometimes it's weather stuff, whatever. Like, yeah, it's an Amber. There's been a child abduction. And I was like, in terms of the alert, not the abduction, I was like, okay, good. You know, this is a good thing. It's an intelligent use of this technology and of the universal nature or near universal of nature of smartphones in the US, right? I totally get it. I am not against Amber Alerts in the least, but at the same time, it was just like, there's no escaping this. Like that, you just. I'm already in a bad mood, and now I'm forced. The knowledge is forced upon me that there has just been a child abduction somewhere in the area that I live, and I was just like, again, glad for the alert, glad for the application. I hope it helps, right? But also, man, man, is that just getting like hit with a truck in the middle of your evening, just trying to wind down. It's like, hey, just a quick reminder, just a heads up, there has been a child abduction. There's no chance you will be able to contribute because you're just in your apartment, but we wanted to let you know. So I was trying to brainstorm. I was like, what can we do? What can we how can we balance this out? I don't want to go on some campaign to say like, oh no, we should never, don't do Amber Alerts anymore. That doesn't make any sense. But what if we could balance it out with a little bit of positivity, right? So we also have universal alerts. It could have the same ringtone or notification sound, or it could be something much more upbeat, much more joyful. I don't know. But the idea would be that the notifications, the substance of the notifications themselves, is all about exclusively very positive stuff, and not your run-of-the-mill like, oh, somebody returned a wallet. Like, okay. It's fine. That ultimately boils down to somebody lost their wallet and they got it back. It's par for the course, right? But what do you think of something like, I don't know, how about like, oh, I thought this would work. Okay, that's good enough. What if we got notifications for something like, the least desirable dog at the local animal shelter just got adopted, and the person seems okay. Like the person seems like they're actually going to treat the dog right. You know what I mean? Like that, I'm on board for that. I think that would be great. They don't even have to be as often as, well, I guess they don't really plan out how often Amber Alerts are, right? But how about twice as many? Twice as many of the good times alerts of the, oh, happy times, something great happened. We should all feel thankful for our lives on this earth. I think it would help balance the scales a little bit. And just on a personal level, I would feel okay. I'd feel more okay about the idea of just having, like, if you own a phone, you have agreed to this. You have agreed to be assaulted with whatever notifications they're looking to send. So that's great. That was a fun time. I spent a good, 45 minutes just kind of pondering that topic yesterday. Yeah, I don't want to talk about Blue Eyed Samurai yet. Okay, let's just go ahead and read some quick headlines and stuff. We'll talk about the show shortly. This is, I guess, good that this is an article that they're posting. I guess they're just posting an article saying there's a video you should look at. But yeah, given the fact that this is, the site is largely directed towards animation industry professionals, I think. Great. That's okay. Great. That's a great resource. Unfortunately, at the same time, apparently there were 800 layoffs over at Paramount. Just awful. I don't think I really want to read that in detail. I think we're good without it for now. But my gosh, that's massive. That is just terrible. And now I guess you can check out this video for some ideas. I don't think it's so much about resources, just like things you should be doing with your time down, with your downtime. I did not know that Bong Joon-ho was working on an animated feature. I just want to get a couple of details from this and then we can move on. Very early days, of course, too. Mickey 17. Hell of a title. In terms of like brand recognition, I guess. Uh, imagine that. Imagine working in 2 different countries, right? Like you get to be in one country and there's, oh, I have to do some work over there. You go to the other. Man, my camera looks bad today. Sorry. Ugo says you can turn Amber Alert off if you don't want them. No, and that's not the point, you know. Like I said, they do good. I'm happy to help if I can, but it's incredibly unlikely that from the vantage point of my apartment that I would be able to really get any useful information. Okay, yeah, let me mess with the I don't like, I am pale in real life. I am not this pale in real life. This is kind of ridiculous. I also could just set up a light over there. I can also do this for a little bit of light. Here we go. Much warmer color temperature. Now it's like 2-tone. Kind of like that. Anyway, how's it going, Ugo? Welcome back. It's good to see you here. How's your week been so far? Whoa. Retro. The only way so far that I've been able to think of, like, summarizing the week that I've had so far is just, I don't know. Do you have those times when you're just kind of exhausted with yourself or by yourself? You know what I mean? Does that, does that phrasing strike a chord at all? Like, you know, in one mood, you're like, yes, I've got to do this, this, and this. These are positive things that I could be doing right now. And they would have positive results, right? These are positive habits. And then, you know, the mood switches hours, days, or minutes later. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, what? How, what? How did everything fall apart? What did you do? What happened to the time? There was free time. It's gone. There was work to do. The work probably didn't get done. So it's kind of been like that this week. I think Ugo said, you've been good. Hello, it's been okay. Message retract. Okay. It's been okay. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I would say it's an okay time of year. Oh, also it's Valentine's Day. Whoops. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. If you're watching live, I didn't come up with any special theming, and you know what? That's okay. I don't think there's much I could do with that angle right now. But absolutely. Happy Valentine's Day. Something to celebrate regardless of your relationship status, I guess, you know? Any holiday, well, a holiday where you don't have off work is a different kind of situation. And Ugo, you were probably here around that time, of course. Feels like a long time ago, but yeah, a year ago, for Valentine's Day, I was in court, not being prosecuted, but for jury duty stuff. That was a long time ago. But yeah, I have strong memories of that Valentine's Day for sure. Sorry. Anyway. This Bong Joon-ho animated feature apparently has a budget of around $52 million. Making it the most expensive Korean film of all time? Really? Okay. Alright. Okay. Cool. Good to go. I'm interested. I don't know, the title I don't like, but I like the filmmaker and the people he tends to work with, so we'll take a look. You know, we'll take a look when we have anything to look at. Right now, it's just super pre-production stuff. Okay, there's some Chinese animated movie that's making a lot of money. Yeah, I'm not going to say that I'm uninterested in Chinese animation as a whole. That's just stupid. There's so much variety there, on many different levels. But in terms of the really, you know, the smash hits, the blockbuster Chinese animated features are typically something I really don't like at all. But there you go. this unappealing looking movie is making a bunch of money. Uh, there you have it. And Robot Dreams, which is I guess considered one of the surprise or the surprise nomination for Best Animated Feature for the Oscars, won some stuff at the Goya Awards. I don't want to say a lesser award show, but a lesser awards show in Spain. Cool. Still haven't seen it. I'm pretty sure I checked for the streaming options for that so far, and it's like nothing. I don't think you can even pay to watch or rent online so far as I know. So if somebody has more information on that, feel free, of course. But yeah, there we have it. Robot Dreams is doing pretty well. Glad. Does it have a shot at winning that particular Oscar? I'll say a shot. I don't think it's likely, you know. I don't know how many of the voting members will even bother to watch it. But there you go. Happy to hear it. Some stuff from the Annie Awards. Okay. There's a Peppa Pig. It's a compilation, an episode compilation of Peppa Pig for the 20th anniversary. 2004 is what? Wow, I must have been out of the loop back in 2004. I did not know about that show for a long time. What else do we have? Apparently, we're getting a Larry Boy movie, and is this? I have no basis for this. It's just the vaguest of memories. It's just a cloud of information somewhere in my brain. But I feel like many years ago, were there other rumors of this happening? I could have sworn there were rumors of a Larry Boy movie a long, long time ago. I really think that happened, or at least that's what it feels like in my head. I feel like there were plans for a Larry Boy movie that just never came to pass. Anyway, 2026. So again, nothing to see here yet. Also, this little run up here made me sad. NBC Universal's Big Idea Content Group. My gosh. Also, I mean, if this wasn't already a total, corporate cluster mess, Universal is also owned by I almost said Capcom. Isn't it owned by Comcast? Am I getting that mixed up? Could have sworn that Universal was owned by so there are even more companies tacked on to this big I don't know, it's just strange to think about because as far as I know, Big Idea was originally independent, I think, at least at the very beginning. And now it's just like one tiny cog or appendage on a much larger, just grotesque monster. Anyway, I don't know. Larry Boy movie. I could be into it. It does feel like it's been quite a while, at least from my adult perspective. It feels like it's been a while since Larry Boy or the VeggieTales as a whole had that kind of brand presence. I don't know if it's still a big deal with kids, but yeah, there you have it. Ugo says Valentine's is okay unless you're asexual. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, not everyone who's asexual is also aromantic, right? So there's that, I guess. But beyond that, I can't speak to it. I guess I don't know. But no, just as a holiday, I mean, I guess it's originally a religious holiday, right? It's feast day of St. Valentine. Or it's around this time. I don't have my feast days memorized. Yeah, but no, just any excuse to celebrate something, I'll take. And I think other people should take. Any excuse to say, oh, I'm gonna, make a bit of an effort to relax a little bit or do something special. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive thing. So that's all I mean. It doesn't really need to be tied to any specific. Doesn't need to be tied to romantic relationship stuff, I don't think. Anyway, YouTube, Roblox, and TikTok dominate kids' screen time. Free platforms is less. I don't think I really want to go into that. It feels very depressing. And in terms of how children fare on these different platforms and like, I don't know, safety measures for kids on these various platforms, there's a lot of discussion to be had. But yeah, Roblox is notoriously bad for that. And TikTok, I just have a hunch. TikTok doesn't currently have incredible protections for children users. I don't know. They may be collecting their data. Just a hunch. And YouTube, I don't know. I assume people still remember the whole COPPA thing, right? The U.S. government lawsuit stuff / investigation, right, around YouTube collecting and selling kids' browsing data, right? Anyway, this is something, unfortunately, we will have to look into a little bit, which is just as well because this is something we talked about last week, so this is the end of the stack, I think. So, so Disney is choosing to work with Epic Games. This is a weird inclusion. I don't think Epic owns the Square Enix property Kingdom Hearts at all. I guess just because video games. Here's Kingdom Hearts. Anyway, 1.5 billion bucks. Okay. Okay, let's get some choice quotes. In addition to being a world-class games experience and interoperating with Fortnite, which I guess just sounds like it's part of Fortnite or could be accessed through Fortnite. So they're leveraging just that install base, I guess. The new persistent universe, my god, what a phrase. Okay. The new persistent universe will offer a multitude of opportunities for consumers, my favorite word, to play, watch, shop, no Oxford comma, and engage with content, characters, no Oxford comma again, and stories from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, Avatar, and more. I will stop mentioning the commas. Players, gamers, and fans will be able to create their own stories and experiences, express their fandom in a distinctly Disney way, and share content with each other in ways that they love. This will all be powered by Unreal. Oh, thanks. Thanks for mentioning. It's gonna be based on Unreal Engine, which that's how Epic makes their money. Okay. Okie doke. Oh my gosh. Ooh. And shopping, right? I believe there's a shopping component. It just sounds, I mean, it sounds basically identical to the metaverse discussion stuff that was that just a year ago? It feels longer. Digital spaces that technically have other things to do, but are ultimately meant to be, okay, marketing, funnels for marketing and virtual shopping, I guess. We certainly haven't seen that come to fruition so far. What is it? Horizon Worlds was the Meta VR AR project. That was their metaverse bread and butter. I don't know. Fortnite is arguably already a successful iteration of a metaverse concept in this corporate context that they keep talking about it. So I at least get the choice. I get the choice for the collab, but beyond that, I just don't think. I just can't imagine it. I cannot imagine it. A persistent, open, and something about the word persistent there, huh? or persistent universe. I think unfortunately we live in a persistent universe, but I'll have to check on their definitions. Ugo says, "Are there still shows or episodes that are from VeggieTales? You mean like new stuff? I saw them back when I was a kid, and they were weird and had too much religion in them. Oh, I mean, it was a religious project, right? I guess just like vaguely Protestant Christianity, as far as I can remember. I don't know if they're still being produced. This is again like I am very out of touch with modern day VeggieTales, so I assume they have been producing something over the past 15, 20 years ago since the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything? Is that where I sort of tapped out? I assume so. I guess we could look if we feel so inclined. But no, I liked plenty of the VeggieTales stuff. I liked their gimmicky the parody stuff, you know, Lord of the Beans, and was there a Wizard of Oz one too? Maybe that's more recent. Other parodies that I can't remember right now. So I like plenty of that. We had plenty of the VHSs, you know, growing up. So it was definitely a staple. But anyway, Ugo says, didn't Disney have that game where you buy that toy and then you play it in a game? I think it's called Disney Universal. Is it shoot, Skylanders? Is that what it was? Was that a Disney thing? I feel like Skylanders. It was a Toys to Life thing. So that's what you maybe think of with you have a real life toy, right? Okay, so that was an Activision thing and a Square Enix thing. But it might have had Disney characters in it, or I'm just thinking of something completely different. Let's check a Disney Toys to Life game. What do we get? Disney Infinity. Disney Universal was close. So yeah, it's not Skylanders. Skylanders was just another Toys to Life thing. Yeah, let's take a look real quick. Oh my gosh, Disney Infinity. Yep, here we go. 9 out of 10 on Steam. Really? Wow. 2013. Is it still live? I think. Very positive out of 777 reviews, released on 2016. A full $30 with multiple gold editions, apparently. I think I'll get tagged for this trailer. We might. Cool. Anyway. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I can't find the the perfect microphone spot. That seems okay. So yeah, there you go. They had a Toys to Life thing. I maybe saw this once or twice. I certainly didn't engage. Oh my god, with the Avengers. Ew. Oh my gosh. Do you think the cast was getting royalties for their likenesses? Because I don't think they are the likenesses. Oh my goodness. Hey Toots, how's it going? Welcome back. Toots says, they showed us a lot of VeggieTales at my Catholic elementary school. Actually, a lot of the religious educational resources we use for Protestant. Yeah, well, oh, sure. I mean, you know, without getting too far into it, I also went to a Catholic elementary school, and I guess technically middle school, because it was through 8th grade. And then high school, I went public high school. Yeah. The thing is, with again, I was in that world for a long time. Protestant, they tend to have plenty of money, I guess, is the bottom line, particularly for producing that kind of stuff, right? They got the money, they have the resources typically, and even at times it just felt like they also the creativity, you know. But no, I just think there are more Protestant sects and also like non-denominational Protestants too, so there's more pooling of resources, whereas, you know, just Roman Catholicism is one category, right? It's one box and it's one pigeonhole or whatever. But that's so funny. Yeah, no, I absolutely had that same thought many times. So we would never use a Protestant like religious textbook. That would be insane. But yeah, in terms of like Bible camp resources, there was a ton of Protestant stuff. Absolutely entertainment, even the live action Christian movies of the day, like Fireproof was probably the biggest one I can think of. Almost exclusively Protestant. There is a certain amount of like Catholic specific, I guess we would call it content creation at this point. Just not as much, and I feel like the quality varies quite a bit too. Anyway, sorry, just really brought back some. Ugo says yes. I think Skylanders tried to copy it, and then Amiibo. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the order, but certainly those were all part of the Toys to Life scheme. Sorry, I got a phone call here. Also, apology. I am streaming right now. Toots says I was in Catholic school until grade 9 and went to a public school too. Hey, there you go. See, Toots, I think we're just a lot of we're just on the same page. We're on the same page. But anyway, yeah. Won't go into too many Catholic school stories. I actually think it was kind of a good school. I mostly enjoyed it, other than the fact that it was school. It's sort of funny. I'm just the topic, whatever the original topic was, it's gone. I was a pretty good student, at least through almost all the school. I was a pretty good student, so I think there was an assumption of like, oh, you must like school then. I was like, what? No, of course not. Like, I do not like going to school. I hate it. But you're good at classes and tests. What are you talking about? And yeah, the switch to a public school was very interesting, we'll say. Yeah, slightly different vibe. Ugo says, I grew up in a Mexican, very Catholic house, but I still found VeggieTales weird and didn't want to see it. Wow, see, there you go, look at this. The Catholic, or maybe ex-Catholic fan club we got going. Who says we don't have a diverse audience? Also, hello, football over VeggieTales. Reason, it's because they're a Larry Boy movie, except for release in, what was it, 2026? Maybe 27. But super pre-production, so we don't have any, I don't think we even have concept art or anything for it. But if anyone knows whether or not VeggieTales has continued to produce stuff, let us know. I just don't feel like looking it up right now, and also I should probably move on. But that's interesting, Ugo. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds funny, but I totally understand how someone who maybe even agrees with the general sentiments of some kind of religious content could still feel like, oh, this is overly preachy, or this is too much, or just not fun to watch. Like, it's all valid. Christmas special was good. I forget what it was called, but they introduced a new character, which is basically Pinocchio, right? Who doesn't become real. Pinocchio who doesn't become real is actually kind of a fun character. Anyway, Toot says Scorsese is far and away the best Catholic content creator. I'm laughing because it's true, and I know he would despise being called a content. Well, that's what makes it funny. That's what means you should call Scorsese a content creator. Yeah, Scorsese actually seems like a nice guy. I don't know, even when I see him do interviews and stuff today, he looks very old, but he's not, he's not old in the brain as far. I just mean he's still very articulate. He's a really great storyteller, just in his speech. Filmmaking is, obviously filmmaking as well. But I still love listening to Scorsese, and I'm glad that he's made what some would consider to be slightly, controversial comments or takes on contemporary filmmaking and entertainment. I think that's totally justifiable. I think he's kind of earned a say, My family made me watch a lot of VeggieTales growing up, starring Barbara Manatee as his love interest, I assume. That would be great. Okay, all right, we'll look very quickly. very briefly. Anyway, so yeah, Disney wants a Fortnite where you can buy Disney stuff, and it will probably be in Fortnite. Faith-based content is doing big business at the box office. It is. Okay, 2026 plot details with no plot details, no director. So 2002 is when Jonah was released. 25.6 million globally, not great. And then 2008 was Pirates Who Don't Do Anything. Okay, I guess that was... I kind of had the right time frame in mind for that one. That would made 13.2, not a lot. That's probably the better movie, though, to be honest. Certainly a more compelling tone for me. Anyway. They have sold 60+ million videos. Wow. VeggieTales is the absolute gold standard for faith-based children's animation. So what about Moral Orel? They're just disrespecting the classics there, I guess. What are these just like C-suite blurbs? Are these part of a press release or something? Could you just write something? Like there's nothing. We got nothing for the movie so far. There's no title. It'll probably be Larry Boy. There's no title, there's no script. There's no director, there's no cast. There's no art. Just say something, I guess, about Larry Boy. Hugo says, did they also watch it with you, or did they leave you to watch it by yourself? That's a question for Football Lover. Football Lover says, Levin Scorsese isn't afraid to give less than favorable reviews for movies that the masses drool. Wow, what an incendiary comment. I don't know what, the Marvel stuff, right? They took shots at the Marvel stuff, and that was... Is there more? There's probably been more. Anything else here? But yeah, I don't know. Not too much else here. Yeah. Yeah, we'll switch to Blue-Eyed Samurai stuff. Dude says, my parents are technically Eastern Orthodox. It's as much of a cultural thing as religion in my home country. Getcha. But never attended Mass. They sent me to a Catholic school to learn Christianity. Oh, okay. Fair enough. So it works out that it was just Protestant materials, right? But yeah, Eastern Orthodox. Some of my friends, some of the grade school friends were Eastern Orthodox as well. But like, yeah, the chances of having access to an Eastern Orthodox school, if they even exist, you know, it seemed very low. So it was like, okay, the Catholic school, the Roman Catholic school is the next best thing, I guess. It's still faith-based, as that article would say. And I guess in the same ballpark religiously. Yep. Catholic school, maybe an atheist. Wow. Oof. Fair enough. I think that's a perfectly valid reaction to going to Catholic school. Ugo says, must have been some rough nuns in that school. I don't think, no, at the first grade school I went to, the grade school I went to for kindergarten and first grade, had nuns. But the one after that did not have nuns. Not even in, like, we probably didn't even have nuns within the county line, you know? It was nowhere near a cloister. No nunneries nearby. So we unfortunately missed out on that, you know, aspect. Maybe that's more of, I don't, like boarding schools, right? The Trouble with Angels. Or, I feel like there were a lot of movies about Catholic boarding schools. There's one with an all-boys school that I forget the name of. Yeah. Anyway. Bible study. I might have gone to Bible study. I don't actually remember. Okay. Here we go. That's 45 minutes. That's more than long enough, I think, for just news headlines and stuff. Let's have a chat about Blue-Eyed Samurai here for a little bit. Open-ended. Feel free to say things. I don't want to rush in with my comments on the show, and again, as I said at the start, I still haven't finished it. I think I'm very near the end, but I haven't finished it yet. So yeah, I'd love to hear some thoughts from other people. If there's something that folks would like us to check out for next week, go ahead and recommend. But yeah, we're gonna have a little chat about Blue-Eyed Samurai here. Yeah. Right. Was it more like Sister Act 2? My school? We go if you mean by, like, you know, just some ragamuffins off the street, I guess so. We did that on a regular basis. We had a lot of musical performances. We had very briefly, it might have just been for 1 year, but the choir teacher spearhead, all the credit in the world to her. It was fun for us for a while, but she spearheaded like a show choir, right? And all that meant is that, she would order score music from whoever sells that kind of stuff, meant to be sung by kids choirs. And then there was incredibly simplistic choreography that you would do while singing the song. One was about hats, and there were plastic hats that you would like take on and off. And the other was about sunglasses. So you had the plastic sunglasses, kind of aviator style, with like the neon colored what are these even called? Parts that go over your ears. We did that. I think we did 2 shows, but it was one. It was one performance. But it was very disappointing because we worked moderately hard to get the stuff together, right? And then when we did it and we started doing the choreography, and I mean all, across the board, all of the parents in attendance, therefore who was, 100% of the audience, they start laughing. And it wasn't mean-spirited laughing, but it was laughing like, oh, this is meant to be fun. This is meant to be like a cute thing we were doing. And I don't think we had that view of it at all. I think we were like, well, no, this is sing the song. Like, you don't laugh when we're singing the Christmas songs, So that's how that went. So that was kind of Sister Act 2, sort of. I don't think we were allowed to wear sort of bright colors and stuff, though, or special outfits. So. Ugo said I was talking about 2s because it was cool for... Yeah, okay, gotcha. Sorry, I'm getting caught up. Trouble with Angels is a great movie. It's pretty good. Yeah. Arguably better than the sequel, but maybe not. Ugo says, I like the story in Blue Eye and how they were able to hide it under all the action. Football says, I haven't watched Blue-Eyed Samurai just yet, but the friends I know who have seen it are mostly satisfied with it. Okay. Super Happy Brenda song was involved. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We incorporated that 100%. Okay. Yeah. Well, just go ahead and throw out your thoughts, about this show. It's, yeah. Obviously, it's done very well for itself relative to a streaming exclusive show, relative to a Netflix original. It reviewed well on Rotten Tomatoes, although, when we are talking about a streaming exclusive animated show, we're not necessarily talking about a ton of critics, and we're not necessarily talking about the same critics who are going to be handling, feature films and stuff. So I don't know. I do disagree with that sort of overall take. But it's reviewed quite well overall. Audiences seem quite happy with it. I also think that the algorithm, the machines are correct to associate it with Arcane, that sort of mediocre League of Legends show. from, well, I guess it might still be running, but has been running for a few years now. Um, just in terms of art style, and obviously, uh, the show's visuals have done so much to, I think, just wow, look at this. Wow. 4.7 stars. For later. Uh okay. The show's visuals are fantastic. I really want to stress visuals in terms of backgrounds, art direction, character models, color palettes, all of that stuff is really great. It is an incredibly good-looking show. Uh, I love looking at the show most of the time. It's lovely to have on the screen. Netflix is running this in HDR and 4K. If you're paying for the really fancy tier, it looks very good in those formats. It is a very good looking show. At the same time, I I don't necessarily have as much praise for the actual animation, meaning the motion. uh, and it does turn out to be largely an action oriented series. I do not like how the action is executed the vast majority of the time. And there are even certain moments or sequences or just, I don't know, fight scenes in general that feel like they weren't made specifically for animation. Like if you were making this as a live action project, you would probably use very similar choreography. The gore is over the top, and sometimes there are wacky, fantastical elements. But most of the time, the action just feels like, yeah, you could just do this with real people, and it would like be at a similar level of, I don't know, spectacle. Uh so I see that as a detriment. I didn't really just that aspect of the animation really didn't click with me. And then if you're just talking about moment to moment animation during dialogue sequences or something like that, again, like composition, yes, color palettes, yes, love that, but actual movement, there's not much for me there. There's not a lot there that like I actually that interests me. I guess I'm trying very hard to say that it's not bad. I am not saying it's bad, but nothing about the style of the animation caught my attention, I guess, in any way. And even if it did, it would be upstaged 100% by just the overall look of the show. So there's that. Uh, into it. Anyway, Toot says our Catholic schools in Canada, or at least in my province, are publicly funded. Interesting. They weren't run by the church, so there were no nuns, unfortunately. The church was still pretty heavily involved, though. I guess that makes sense. The latter part makes sense. I don't necessarily understand the state-run part, but it's also, it's just different. It's very different from what we usually do here. There should be some sort of stipend for nuns, right? Like a baseline number of nuns for each school. I don't know. Football says, would you consider that type of art style to be fan servicey? Like, do they do it because they know that people will be looking at it, not necessarily worrying about the story? If we're if we're talking about fan servicey in with a sexual connotation, no, not although as you can see, some of the popular searches for Blue-Eyed Samurai are woman, girl. So they haven't managed to remember the characters' names. I don't know. I wouldn't extend the art direction to any accusations of fan servicey stuff or anything like that. There's plenty of nudity in the show. There's plenty of well, I won't say plenty of. There's a certain amount of just straight sexual content, right? Like there's a handful of sex scenes, which one of them I found embarrassing, but not because of like had nothing to do with the fact that it was a sex scene. It was just like the way it was executed reminded me of how a sex scene would play, how it would be scripted and executed in like, I don't know, a late 90s like Michael Bay popcorn movie, or maybe like a Matrix movie. There's plenty of Matrix stuff in here too. It was just so corny the way that it played out, and like how clear it was what they were trying to parallel. It just kind of made me laugh, which I don't think was the intention. Other sex, I don't think I remember the other sex scenes really. Anyway, apparently a lot of women involved with the show on the production side too. One of the co-creators, I think they're a married couple, which is gross in its own way. I don't producing couples or executive producer couples in Hollywood and stuff. It's not really my yeah. Anyway, but also a woman director for I think much of the show, if not like the entire run of the show. Also, the show is very clear about its viewpoints on, I guess, just like baseline feminism, which I am basically on board with. It's I don't know. Sorry, I'll get caught up on what people are saying too, because I'm going down another rabbit hole. But like I said at the very start, there is actually a lot more to talk about with the show than I thought. And I don't dislike it nearly as much as I did after watching just the first episode, which is an hour long, by the way. At the same time, I can't say that I was like completely won over, or that I really came around on all of the performances, or the dialogue, especially the overall story, etc. But instead of rambling, I'll try to read what people have been. Oh, sorry. Toots has some more atheist lore. Hang on. The thing that really pushed me towards being an atheist was seeing how unseriously most of the teachers treated their religion, especially the ones who couldn't afford to avoid teaching religion class. Wow. How unseriously they treated their religion classes specifically, or just the religious aspect of the school in general. Everyone just kind of acted as if Catholicism was true, but they were deeply incurious about it and didn't really want to look into it. The private religious schools were much more hardcore when it came to religion. I guess that makes sense. Well, given what you have said there, but again, yeah, that's such a vastly different landscape compared to what we have here. You know, the idea of a publicly funded school with any kind of religious bent would be like so vehemently shouted down in the U.S. immediately. I just can't. I can't even imagine, you know, that being a reality. So it's very far from my my experience. Okay, so I'm already all over the place with Blue Eyed Samurai, and I'm I'm worried that I've already made it sound incredibly negative, like my thoughts on the show. And I don't think they really are. It's always a little bit tough going into a show or a movie when it is so widely praised. You know, like you can try your best to not have that inform your perspective or your viewing experience, but it probably will. It almost always does in my for me. So, there, I guess that could be part of it. Was just like, wow, hearing nothing but glowing reviews. Of course, my expectations were high, and then after watching, I don't want to say that it's just because of the visuals. I don't want to say that it's just because of the, the art direction. Like, and especially now, cell look CG, which is what I'm gonna go with that term for when, 2D artistic approaches and styles are applied to 3D models. Spider-Verse, Last Wish, Kill la Kill, even, etc., etc. It's been around for a while now, and it's no longer enough to just have that look in your project at all, right? It's not enough just, oh, look, we're doing that too. Please give us awards and things and lots of money. Like, we're not there anymore. We're past that point already. And certainly on one hand, I see that as a positive, because it means, oh, the art has to really stand up on its own. It has to compete very actively with plenty of other studios and projects that are using sort of the same baseline, I don't know, format, approach, whatever. And even within the somewhat crowded field of contemporary animation that incorporates 2D art in this way, it still stands above. Like, it still is an absolutely fantastic looking show. It's not, I don't think it's getting by on the novelty of that aspect of its visuals. I think its visuals are genuinely fantastic. Also, on a technical level, just the sheer amount of content, and I mean that in just the literal sense, like the number of minutes of animated entertainment that they produced for this project. I have no idea how long they've been working on this, but regardless, it's a massive amount of work. Like, you just don't get that much animated stuff as part of one project basically ever. It's just an insane amount of work. It's just crazy. So, like, there are incredible accomplishments in terms of the technical execution of this show and the artistic execution of this show. And at the same time, just as someone watching a thing, for the sake of entertainment, I also have these, conflicting opinions or forces that are like, well, it's just a revenge story. Like, I'm really not, there is depth to the revenge. There's a lot of flashbacks, a lot of backstory. So it's not just a revenge story, but at the same time, it is a revenge story at its heart. It is an action series at its heart. And neither of those things are things that really tend to get me interested at all. And the same thing here, to be honest. There's just, I don't know. I it's not something where I wouldn't say that I just enjoyed watching it. Like, I really did have to force myself to watch it. And when I was watching it, I wasn't like, oh, I'm having a good time, or I'm invested. I was just like, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. Oh, that character's back. Okay. Yeah. So I guess that's where it bleeds over into story and character and screenplay and all of that stuff. But sorry, let me catch up, because we've been chatting a lot. Ugo says she's trying to kill 4 people. She's killed 1 person before the show started, and then has that white dude at the end. Yeah, this like Irish Scottish dude, whose name this one. Abaj. How about Abijah? I don't know. Okay. Real quick. Last week, I had negative things to say about our lead performance here, Maya Erskine, who's a known quantity, right? She's professional. Our lead character is a woman disguised as a man, and as a viewer, that's something you pick up on 30 seconds in to the character's first scene. right? Like you're just, oh, okay, this is from a stereotypical perspective, it is a woman, putting on an attempt at a manly voice, a deeper voice, right? Um, However, then the very end of the first episode, meaning like the last, I don't know, 5 seconds, it's one of the last shots where they reveal specifically, well, to the audience, I guess, but also to one of the lead characters, she's a woman. You didn't see that? I was like, what? You're playing that as a twist? I get it's really played as a twist. I feel okay in interpreting it that way. And it what? So that's certainly not something the voice performance accomplishes. I don't think it, I was guessing it was just supposed to be very obvious that this is a woman character posing as a man. I don't know. It felt like a have your cake and eat it too kind of moment. That was a little off-putting. Otherwise, I think the performances are very good, including our lead is very good through most of the show. So I don't. There's some bit parts every once in a while where I heard just some weird delivery of a voice line. I was like, oh, is that just like some person that was just somebody on the team who was like, oh, put them. They'll do some incidentals and that'll be that. There's a little bit of that, but otherwise, a really solid cast. But then at the same time, the dialogue is a whole other topic for me. Feels weirdly old-fashioned, despite the fact that in terms of its messaging, it's trying to be very, very upfront and progressive, and I don't know, in a slightly tired device, at least from my perspective, of applying contemporary thought and contemporary moral and ethical standards to periods of the distant past, which just I get why it's a thing. It never really works for me for just our characters to act like they're from the modern day, and like, oh, we knew all these things were terrible from the start. I think that it just comes across as a big misrepresentation of I don't know, like conceptual hegemony, like the dominance of particular thoughts across cultures. Obviously there were real world people questioning the mores of their own society and stuff. It wasn't everyone, I don't think. So it continues to be a strange approach, but it also just feels like an approach that it was the best way for them to deliver messaging about, as I said, sort of baseline feminism and women's rights and striving towards equality and all that. But at the same time, I do genuinely think that our lead character of Mizu is very interesting when it comes to the show's discussion of just gender as a whole, because it's not it's not just one of those lore things that a lot of us internet goblins love to have. Like, oh, we're watching a show. Oh, we want to know. We want to know for the wiki this character's height. We want to know their exact hair color, and we want to know their sexual orientation for the wiki. We want it confirmed so that our fan fiction feels more accurate. I just have never related to that. What I'm getting at here is that we have moments during the show, for example, where Mizu will just say, yeah, like, oh, people are, what? Why are you dressed like a man? What is that all about? Well, I had to. Look, it was to stay alive, okay? I had to do this. I was forced into this by circumstance, and just my identity, right? There's a lot more to it. It's not the character saying one way or the other, oh, I have this gender identity, this is such and such, I am trans or I'm not, even considering that the concept would have existed at the time. I think there's some genuinely compelling discussion, or I guess we'll say exploration. The show discusses feminism. The show does not necessarily discuss gender. It explores gender, whether on purpose or not. I assume it's very much on purpose. I loved that. That felt like it resonated more with me, I guess. as opposed to one of our leads standing up and say, I'm angry because I don't think women should be property. I was like, okay, like, yes, okay, yes, yes, right. Yes, I agree. I understand that this is just the, the people making the show speaking directly through the character, and I agree. But just stating your messaging in dialogue is never as interesting to me, I guess, as more organic forms of exploration, of talking about subjects, of using our characters to reflect the realities of the given messaging or concepts or whatever. Sorry, getting very abstract. I'll try to come back down to earth here, and I'll catch up with the comments here. I apologize. I've really been going off today. Okay, let's see what we got. Toot says teaching religion class is basically a punishment for teachers who couldn't get enough teaching hours with their other classes. Wow, you had like the behind the scenes info. My grade 8 religion teacher made it pretty clear that she didn't want to be there and didn't care enough to take the material seriously. Wow. That didn't offend my religious sensibilities, but it offended me as a nerd. Sorry for the atheist lore rant. No, it's very interesting. And in the future, sorry, I'll leave more time, to just chat about all this different stuff. But no, I find it very interesting. And yeah, again, like I said, I've been down the rabbit hole. I can talk quite a bit about those types of religious communities and my own experience with them and stuff. But I'm glad. I'm really glad that you've shared, bits of your experience here too. I do find it really interesting, and also just those really, what I consider to be insane differences in terms of how, religious schools operate just between the U.S. and Canada. But yeah, no, it is very interesting. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing. Ugo says, I would say it's a revenge story. You have to remember the story has 4 main leads. Each of them are being forced into a world that does not want them to be themselves. I agree with the substance. I don't know if I would necessarily say that we have 4 leads, like it's sort of an ensemble thing. And yes, you're absolutely right. They do share that quality, right, or that circumstance, I guess. Mizu is absolutely far and away the pro tag, right? Like there's no, I don't think there's too much argument there. But yeah, and again, that aids the messaging, that aids the theming, right? It works. But what else do I have here? Toot says, is Maya Erskine in the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Is that who's in it? I haven't been, to be honest, I haven't been following the stuff around the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith too much. But if someone has that info, let me know. But yeah, she's been in a bunch of stuff, right? A ton of stuff. Probably a lot of stuff that I like. It's not coming to mind right now. Ugo says, Teach has a chose to lay down and die. You want the world to fight back, and each of their own way. Sorry, I'm lost on that one, I think. If it's a character's name that I don't remember, I apologize. Ugo says, in the first episodes, the city guard would not even let Owen a child into the city because she was a woman, even knowing that she will die. And even then, everyone else treats this as fine. Okay, so you're saying that would be in favor of it actually kind of being historically accurate, right? Or true to the historical context, right? Yeah, no, yes, right. And like normalization, I would say, is how that presents itself most of the time, like the historical authenticity in a very broad sense, because I'm not an expert in this period of Japanese history or any period of Japanese history, but yes, like I absolutely believe that there were periods in Japanese history when, just human trafficking was completely normalized, and that's what we see in the show, right? Just like, oh, this is just the reality, right? The flesh traders, they're calling them. There are people who deal opium here, and they get people addicted and their lives are ruined, like obviously there are clear examples of broad historical accuracy. I'm on board with that, but just so many projects that go the route of the characters you're supposed to like are the ones who reflect modern day sensibilities. You know what I mean? In the vast majority of cases. I suppose there are also, generally, not speaking specifically about this show, there are opportunities to have a character who has to come out of that, right? They have to emerge from the dominant way of thinking to, oh, wait, maybe I should be questioning this cultural more. You know, maybe I should be trying to act differently, or supporting, you know, justices in different forms. And I like that can be very interesting too. I don't know. It's that aspect just kind of feels, specifically in terms of talking about character development and stuff. It kind of feels like a shortcut to, oh, these are the people you're supposed to like. You know, these are the ones. These are the ones who you're going to be rooting for based solely off of the fact that they act like modern day people do and therefore feel the most comfortable to modern audiences, I guess. That on top of the fact that I'm just getting a little bit weary, I am getting a little bit worn out by how many projects decide to do this. I guess another clear example would be, in a sense, would be the Disney live action remakes. Anything that is sort of loosely based in another period of human history. Fantasy versions, of course. But they like to do the same thing. Like, oh, our protagonists specifically, or just the characters you're supposed to like, are the ones that just reiterate things that I would argue majorities of people in the contemporary world do agree with. You know, I'm just getting tired. I don't know. That on top of the fact that, like, I know there were Japanese people involved in the production of this show. As far as I know, though, it is a Western show. And on top of what, Ghost of Tsushima, that's another part of it too. I it's not just another samurai story. I know, and there is more here, but at the same time, it's a samurai. It's a Western project about historical Japan. And is it the Edo period? Is it the most popular period of Japanese history by far? For Western summary of Japanese history, I don't know. It's hard for even that aspect to not feel like a reduction to basically stereotypes. Again, I get the depth here. I get the attempts at subversion, and the hints of true to life. It's I think it's loosely based on a true story, but still, I don't know. How many times can you go back to the well? What is what is the representation in even vaguely contemporary media of 20th century history in Japan, like 20th century Japanese history? What understanding, even on a surface level, do we have through cultural osmosis of that period or those periods of Japanese history as compared to Edo and other ancient periods dominated by, you know, feudalism, samurai, shogunates, etc.? I just the only thing I can think of is Kids on the Slope. Kids on the Slope actually does like a decent job. It's not Western, but that is one of the only properties I can think of that does a decent job of trying to delve into an important moment in 20th century Japanese history as opposed to historic Japan. In animation, sorry. Ugo says too, this sounds a lot like historical materialism that those teachers had. You may want to read it. I don't know what that is. And yes, Maya is in the new Mr. and Mrs. Maya Erskine. Sorry, I'm not on a first name basis. She is in the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Loved her in Pen 15. Oh, that's who it is. That's why I know Maya Erskine. Oh. I like Pen 15. it does make me view this performance differently. Oh my gosh. Wow. It's warm in here. Why is it warm in here? Fun. Ugo says the Sword Father may not have liked that they would have liked Mizu being a woman. And I do think that's why the writer had him cut off the conversation when she's going to say she's a woman. Okay. Edo period was about 200 years. Right, but what Meiji is what, late 18th century? Showa is what, like the 1980s? These are the gaps. Anyway, yeah, it's cut off in that conversation, but as I said, the ending, the closer of episode 1 is the comedy relief character looking at naked Mizu and saying, "Oh, you're a girl, huh?" Oh, I think they also chop that in the middle of the line, but either way. And as far as I know, like, I don't know, spoiler, I guess. Mizu's also married for a while to a man. And during that time, she, dressed as a woman. But this is what I'm, again, this is what I'm trying to communicate, or part of it, is that I like the ambiguity in that aspect of that character. I like it. And I tend to like those kinds of ruminations in the show as opposed to, very direct surface level statements about what the show is trying to communicate, I guess. Subtlety is usually a little bit more interesting to me, or just clicks with me more. It's just a matter of preference. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's, it's not a review. we're just having a chat. I wish I had something else to put up on the screen. I don't know. I didn't even take notes with this one. I wanted to and then didn't. Addition to the world of anime, I have a little bit of a problem. Where is the studio based? Was this or was this not a Western production? Well, in terms of the animation. Are they perhaps French? Studio services. Does that mean they actually animated it or what? They may, in fact, be French. Anyway, but yeah, it's an ongoing conversation. The label of anime, right? Because it originally replaced Japanimation, which it did not survive as a term for very long, I don't think. 80s into the 90s. So I've continued to see it as just a catch-all for Japanese animation, right? But that is the thing, is that it just means animation. It doesn't in the language, it doesn't mean Japanese animation. In fact, I was talking to I was talking to a Japanese friend or acquaintance about movies. I don't know, somewhat recently. I guess end of last year. We were talking about Spider-Verse, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite anime of 2023." And it's, that sounded a little funny to me because, like, we wouldn't, Western audiences wouldn't call it anime, but it just means animated stuff. Anyway, so for this random Google user to call this an anime is a little iffy. But yeah. I'll move on. Doesn't matter. Let's see what we got. Ugo says, sorry, there was a scene she was going to tell the Smith that she's a woman. Yeah. and due to how the Smith was acted, there would have been a good chance that he would have been mad. Sure. I mean, at the same time, like, we have that initial tension, and it's one of the first flashbacks, I guess, to episode 1, of helping out, running away, staying with the Smith, right? Sword father. He was okay ultimately with her being a half breed. Not my words. I would kind of hope, and again, also it's just funny to me with the voice acting, like, right? It's like that Arrested Development meme of, oh no, I'm forgetting all the characters' name, but like, oh, maybe your father is out there watching you, and the slow music is like, oh yeah, he's your dad. There's no mystery to the fatherhood mystery. That's how I felt about the voice acting. Like, is she just protect? Yeah, you can just listen. Which is irrelevant in the modern context of, I don't know, of gender discussion. But in this show, it's not supposed to be. In this show, it is supposed to be very clear. Oh my gosh. Anyway, sorry. Ugo's giving us some reading, Marx and Engels. We're talking about historical materialism. There you go. Some reading. If you have book titles, let us know. Yeah, but I don't know. I thought that reading about hegemony was going to help me out today, and it didn't really. I think it was verging off in another direction than what I was looking for. Hegemony and historicity both came up recently, and I was trying to make sense of some of that stuff. Tude says, damn, it's been a really long time since I've heard the term Japanimation. Yeah, it just it didn't win, right? It just didn't happen. And Tudes clarifies that Oscar Bluth, that's it. Yes, Oscar Bluth is the uncle father, and George Bluth is the patron. George Bluth is our, not a lead character, but main cast. Oscar's the weirdo, right? Weirdo uncle. I haven't watched that show for a long time. Maybe that's for the best. I don't know. It was a good show, but it's not something that I've carried with me, Okay, wow, it's 7:30 already. Oh my gosh. How are we feeling? Do we have more thoughts? Have I just have I come across as just like really negative on this whole thing? I hope not. That's not where I'm landing with it, I don't think. And if anything, over time, I expect that my opinion will be more positive about the show overall. And aside from that, my opinion of it doesn't matter, like, I'm really glad people like it. It is original work. It's stunning work visually. I don't think the line by line writing and dialogue is very good, but clearly it has communicated with people nonetheless. So great, right? Great. It's good news. Like, the fact that this has been very popular is probably a good sign, especially, and I say this a lot, but especially if it leads to further exploration, right? If something serves as a gateway for looking at other original work, other I don't know, portrayals of Japanese history, other iterations of this cell look CG animation, that's all good. Those are all positive effects. If the messaging really clicks with people and they find it empowering or inspiring or just like informative, it's helping to shave off the rough edges of their very singular perspective of the world, also good. Don't like the music. I don't like the score music, and I really don't like the licensed music that they choose. I feel that the licensed music in particular is either a bad choice or pushy in the way that it's implemented, where it's just yelling at you how you're supposed to feel during that particular scene. But yeah, in terms of bad selection, there's a particular song. I should have looked it up beforehand because it's an instrumental song. There's a song that is the the training montage song, especially for stuff like 90s onward, as far as I can tell. You'd know it when you hear it. And they use it for a training montage in this show, which would kind of make sense if it was only ever used in very legitimate and earnest training montages in, dozens of movies before, if not hundreds. But the problem was that song was also used for dozens or maybe hundreds of parodies of training montages. And so I don't think that you can bring that back around to being very, stone-faced and serious and intentional. Didn't work for me at all. It just came across like, oh, we had no ideas for that. So just plug in the song that has been used for many, 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 many training montages. So there's stuff like that. But yeah, the score music, I'm sorry, I just don't think. And also, the music teams and the composers working on this stuff usually have an incredibly short amount of time, really tight deadlines. So I'm not trying to be mean about it, but I just didn't find any of the score music interesting. Yeah, heavy wallpaper stuff for me. Football says, how many more episodes do you have? Maybe 1.5. They might drag it out. Was it 10? How many? Just tell me how many episodes. Don't look at the summaries. No spoilers. There are 8. I might be on 8. We'll see. But yeah, after about 2.5 hours of like, oh, I'm not having fun. I was just like, let's save it for another day when I'm in a good mood. Then it'll bring my mood down, Yeah, and George Takei. George Takei just, he's great. He's great as a voice actor. But he also just comes around as like, we need a guy. We need a guy to play an Asian character who's like over the age of 50. We got George Takei and the guy from Kung Fu Panda who plays Jack Black's dad. That's all we got, right? I think that's everybody. Hugo says Samurai Champloo is another good show. This reminds me about, it's one I've heard of. I've never watched it. Hugo says, what did you not like? Did not like the cover of For Her of the... No, I hated that. Oh, I hated that so much, especially because they use it twice. It's basically a bookend for that episode, right? Or at least key moments of that episode. But the opening, you don't get any lyrics. And it just sounds like the original cut. It sounds like the original album version of For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is, you don't get any sense of the cover aspect. The fact that it is a cover makes it slightly better overall, but no, it was just so corny to me. It didn't work. Maybe I'm not the right age to really get into the boomer metal stuff. I don't know, but it felt like, I don't know, just plain out of touch and not in a cool way. Covers can help with that. Like, when was it just the trailers or did the movie use it too? But Jojo Rabbit, for example, uses a cover of, well, it's not a cover exactly. It's an alternate version. It's the German language version of Heroes, Bowie, right? So like you get the benefit of it being a well-recognized song without it being as corny as that song. You're removing it a little bit. Also, another major benefit of covers like this cover of For Whom the Bell Tolls, vastly less expensive to license as compared to licensing the original track that everybody knows and presumably loves, But no, yeah, the music direction here just not for me. Just does it, I don't know. It's a matter of taste, of course, but I would also like to think that I can tell when there's good taste on display, or they're bringing up stuff that I haven't heard before, and it's being used in a really interesting context. And that's not at all what happened with the music supervision for this series. Just for me. That's all. Dude says Arrested Development was syndicated by CBC. Oh, really? That's a Canadian network. On a daily schedule in Canada, so I watched the first 3 seasons many times. They could cycle through the whole show in a few months. That's pretty funny, yeah, because famously it bombed on U.S. television. It did not perform well at all, and it just dropped, right? We're done. We're done with this. And season 4 can, of course, be easily skipped, so there's that. It is mostly held up when I rewatched it recently. It felt ahead of its time back then, but the vibe does feel somewhat dated now. See, but it's been a long time, you know? So maybe in like 2014 or 2015, that was the sweet spot, right? When the world lined up with the sensibilities of Arrested Development, and then it drifted away again. Ugo says, you want to bring back Entry of the Gladiators as a for real and not just a joke. But it's exactly what I'm talking about. It's just like when, especially a piece of music has been reified, you know, when it has reached a status where it cannot possibly be reinterpreted in a new way because it's already been so solidified as one particular thing within a culture, you can't break away from it. And yeah, that training montage, oh my gosh, that song, I'm sure I could, it's hard to Google, but I'm sure I could find the name of that song. Anyway, so yeah, just didn't, it needed to wink. To use that song, they needed to wink. They needed to like start playing it for 10 seconds and the montage starts up, but then something unexpected happens in the montage. They're like, oh no, we're not doing this anymore. The song cuts out, right? And then it would be like, oh, okay, we're laughing with you. We understand it was a funny thing to include that song, as opposed to, I guess they're taking this seriously? Like, I guess they thought this was a good choice? Oof. Or just nostalgia. I could easily see it being a thing where, you know, people working on the show, oh, this is that song that was used in that movie that I liked when I was a kid. Let's get that. Let's just use that. Those are my influences. Football says, is there anything you're hoping happens before the end of season 1? Honestly, my hope would be that the show just ends, because it feels like we're so close to a natural conclusion of the story. But as I know from scanning through this stuff here while we've been talking, it's been renewed for season 2 already. So unfortunately, the stuff that I want to happen at the end of these episodes will absolutely not happen. It's not gonna happen. I don't think it's going to feel nearly as satisfying as I was hoping, given the runtime. Each episode is what, like 43 minutes ish, which is weird in its own right, because that's like a standard television runtime. Was this originally who in traditional television would have even considered picking this up? I just don't think. Maybe well, no, but I was going to say HBO in terms of content and style, but HBO doesn't have to worry about the commercial break. It is premium. Anyway, moving on. Moving on and maybe wrapping up. It's been a while. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I have not. I don't. Long before. Yeah. Okay. Ugo says, spoiler, do you think it was the mom or the husband who did that one thing in that one episode? Well, this is the lame answer, but I don't think it matters, you know? I'll give you, you know, a more genuine answer too, I guess, but more fun answer. But no, I guess, you know, I understand that because it could have been either of them. That's the point, right? Like, oh no, now I can't trust the only 2 people in my life who I thought I could trust. That's a perfectly, you know, that's a valid catalyst for what happens after that, right? But it doesn't matter. But just for fun, I'll say it was the mom, I don't necessarily believe that the husband guy would have flip-flopped back and forth so quickly. You know, like I understand he was dominated, and so he felt emasculated, and that's, you know, it's a big aspect of the show's messaging too. Um, I don't think that he would have gone as far to be like, oh, by the way, I want her, you know, crossed off the list. I just don't. I don't see that. Meanwhile, the mom is just like, you know, literally has the shakes and is under certain influences, you know. It's not funny. It's really not funny. Anyway, so I just a little less reliable potentially. At the same time, I don't know. Do you think just because she's a mom that she would just automatically be reliable and dependable forever? Is there nothing that could sway her supposed instincts? Uh, Ugo says each episode has very different length. Okay, so it varies. Okay, thank you. The one for whom the bell tolls was the shortest at about 30 minutes. Okay, cool. So it's just one or two maybe that I saw was around 42, 43. Dude says I haven't watched the show. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to say that the mom did it. Well, I appreciate you hanging in there that long, Toots. I really appreciate it. But yeah, let's go with that. The mom did it. It's definitely the mom, and that's all there is to it. No argument, no discussion. Just how it is. Okay, so you know I'll probably have to wrap up soon. It's been a rough day. I'm just gonna hang out for a while. But yes, as always, this has been fun. Really been talking for a long time. And real quick, I don't know if anyone has any thoughts, any other shows or movies that we should potentially check out for the next time. Should we try it again? Another book club? Or skip a week? What do you think? It's probably something I should ask at the start, but here we are. Could be more recent stuff, but generally something that is pretty accessible, right, through one of the major streaming services. Or TV. Does anyone have TV? I don't. But yeah, throw them out there. If not, that's cool. Just split. But yeah, Toot says, overall, would you say the show is worth watching? Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. The time commitment is one thing. Like, that's whether you should watch all of it is up to you, based on how the first, I would say, 3 episodes go. It is very long. It's very long, and I don't know necessarily whether it needed to be that long, to be honest. But absolutely worth like giving a chance and checking out. That's really what I mean. And yeah, just the visuals alone. Again, far and away the most impressive and compelling aspect of the show, I think. So there you have it. Yep. Uko says, I think it was an edit trick from when she started. It's 3 seasons, so the mom was not on the sauce for some time, but the husband was just mad. But in that scene she is, right? And that's part of the discussion. It's like, hey, how did this happen? What have you been up to? Toot says, I'm interested in a Geo Catholic school story stream. I probably, I appreciate, I don't know if I would really have that many, to be honest. But we'll see. But yeah, in general, I don't know. I would like to leave plenty of time for just, you know, random topics and stuff. I think that's fun. It's just much harder to promote in like a thumbnail. Because that's the thing, is I think some of the best, relative to my streams, I think some of the best streams are where we are just talking about whatever, you know, and it's very casual. But in terms of anybody coming in from the outside, it relies very heavily on whatever we say the topic is and whatever's in the thumbnail. You know what I mean? So if I just say, oh, we're just going to chat about stuff, it's, you know, it's nothing. It's trickles of views during and after the fact. So it's a little difficult. Ugo says she also had the most to lose. Wow. I mean, art, yeah, sure. Well, why is a Neo 2? It's a mission in Neo 2. Okay, I've seen enough of that. Dude says, also, is there any long-form writing about animation that you would recommend? Yeah. Yes. Let's see. Well, sorry, I will have to check. I don't remember where the actual book is, but a long, long time ago, I was thinking of or hoping to do a video about Canadian animation, and sort of did eventually. This is a really good book that was recommended to me by someone on Reddit, I think. It's great. It's a very good look into specifically Canadian animation from historic up to more or less contemporary. It was the late 90s, so not up to modern day. Also, it has plenty of stuff on John Kay, which you can just ignore because of sad things. But beyond that, we also have 7 minutes. Got 7 minutes here by Sorry, that glare is awful. Norman Klein, who I think he still works at CalArts as an animation professor, but I don't know. He's also like a local historian in Los Angeles and wrote a really fantastic book about LA history. But 7 minutes is his bit. What he has to say about the early age of American animation specifically, and the old, animated shorts of the 20s into the talkies era, and up through Chuck Jones, more or less. And in fact, Chuck Jones writes the quite long blurb on the back. And what does he say? Aside from the faint complaint that he may have exposed too much of my gaudy guts, I recommend it. Yes, even to the PhDs of the world. And that's the other thing to say is, like, Cartoon Capers is pretty accessible, straightforward stuff. Norman Klein is like, a borderline philosopher, I think, and so he really delves into like the space of the screen, the dimensions and aspects of the various cartoon worlds, how they differ from one another, how the audience inhabits those spaces, value and meaning of lines, like really very specific and very analytical discussion of animation stuff. I haven't read any like really solid books about like animation outside of North America or Japan or something. I would be interested to find some. Otherwise, I don't know. I like art books as well, but that's not exactly long form writing, So yeah. Football says, I have TV. Well, then whatever shows air on TV, you can watch one of those. Ugo says, so she was not on it for about 7 to 9 months, but the moment the man ego was hurt and the way he just changed. I guess, well, I don't know. Sorry, again, I'm tiptoeing around some spoiler stuff. Yeah, I don't know, because even before that, before the big moment, we have those clear indications of like, oh, she wants it again, right? Like she's feeling it, she's feeling the crunch. She is motivated to get involved again, right? So I don't necessarily tie that to their situation and their relationship. Anyway, but yeah, the way that story wrapped up, how it turned out, it made sense to me. It made sense to me, and it felt like a really good encapsulation of the core themes of the show. Maybe even more so than some of the more, I don't know, high intensity, high action present day episodes. But yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm really gonna I'm really gonna stop now, I think. Okay, well, there it is. Yeah, as always, thank you so much to the folks coming out live for the stream. Thank you to anybody watching the archive version of the stream later on. I appreciate it. And I guess that's it. Unless plans change, I should be back next week, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday. Yeah, I think that time works. Should be fine. And that's all. I don't have any specific dates for new videos or anything, so I won't go into that. That's what we have. And yeah, thanks for chatting about Blue Eyed Samurai. I'm glad I'm glad we could chat about it this way. I'm glad I got to say more about it, but it wasn't a whole video. So yeah, there it is. And yes, I'm glad that I've checked it out for sure. Yeah, I was accidentally skipping it prior to this. So there you go. Have a good night too. Yeah, thank you very much. You too. Take care. Take it easy. Ugo has some more speculation. Yes, with withdrawal happening within weeks, not months. Right, or days. Right, depending on dosage. But we won't go into it. I think we'll wrap it up there tonight. But yeah, thanks for being here, Ugo. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Take care. Hope you have a nice, easy weekend. And I'll see you next week. All right. Thanks for stopping by.